Aja Wilson could have had her jersey retirement ceremony on any other day, literally any other. But fate had other plans.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. I think they thought I was like 7 feet. It's okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all so much for being here today. I am overwhelmed with gratitude and joy.
Because as unlucky as it gets, her big moment was scheduled for the exact same day as Caitlyn Clark's. And to make things even more poetic, their jersey numbers, 2-2, lined up perfectly for an unintentional marketing disaster for Wilson. Caitlyn Clark didn't just steal the spotlight, she became the spotlight.
He's a 6-foot guard from West Des Moines, Iowa, the reigning WNBA Rookie of the Year and the greatest of all time, number 22, Caitlyn Clark!
Caitlyn Clark is the fourth most marketable athlete in the world. Let that sink in. Not the WNBA, not just women's basketball, the world. The hype surrounding her jersey retirement was massive. The event was a packed affair as fans flooded the stadium in Iowa, creating an electric atmosphere that felt more like a championship celebration than a jersey retirement ceremony. Clark's name dominated sports media. Every major network was covering it. Every basketball analyst had something to say. Indiana Fever's social media exploded with engagement, and their merch was flying off the shelves faster than they could stock it. It wasn't just a formality. It was a moment in sports history. Meanwhile, Aja Wilson's ceremony? Crickets.
I want to thank my coaches, teammates, and every person who was a part of this journey. You pushed me to my best, and the bonds we created here are unbreakable. I cherish every moment and every memory we made together. To the incredible fans,
South Carolina did their best. They tried to make it a big deal, but the contrast with Caitlyn Clark's event was brutal. They couldn't even give away enough tickets to fill the seats. Even with free admission, attendance was painfully underwhelming. And when they did try to sell tickets at a modest $16 per seat, those seats still sat empty. It wasn't just the attendance numbers either. The energy was off. The excitement just wasn't there. The stadium didn't have that same buzz, that same electric feel that Clark's event had in Iowa. And if that wasn't bad enough, Wilson's merchandise sales flopped. While Caitlyn Clark's jerseys and memorabilia were selling out nationwide, Wilson's merch sat on shelves collecting dust. Here's the part that really makes Aja Wilson's jersey retirement look ridiculous. South Carolina has a strict policy. Players can only have their jersey retired after 5 years of graduation. Wilson graduated in 2018. Do the math. It's been 7 years. So why now? Why wait 2 extra years? It's obvious. South Carolina wanted to cash in on the Caitlyn Clark effect. Caitlyn Clark is a one-woman wrecking ball in women's basketball right now. Everywhere she goes, ticket sales explode, ratings hit record highs, merch flies off the shelves. South Carolina saw what was happening and thought, let's get in on this while we can. They wanted eyeballs. They wanted media coverage. They wanted to ride the Caitlyn Clark wave and get Aja Wilson some much-needed attention. But instead, it backfired spectacularly. Instead of sharing the moment with Clark, Wilson got overshadowed. Instead of boosting her brand, she got buried in the headlines. Instead of making her jersey retirement a special event, it became an afterthought. Caitlyn Clark's jersey retirement wasn't just a personal milestone. It was a symbol of the new era in women's basketball. That same energy carried into the Indiana Fever's offseason, where major trades and roster decisions made one thing abundantly clear. The Fever aren't just here to rebuild. They're here to win. And in doing so, they're making some brutal yet necessary decisions. If there's one thing the Fever needed last season, it was toughness. The physical abuse Caitlyn Clark took on the court was ridiculous. Cheap shots, flagrant fouls, and blatant targeting. It was all there. And the worst part, her own teammates failed to protect her. Nalissa Smith had a chance to stand up for the franchise's biggest asset, the one player bringing millions in revenue and attention. Instead, when things got heated, Smith was nowhere to be found. Worse still, she made an unfortunate post with Debunking Carrington, the same player who was leading the charge in mocking and targeting Clark on the court. That wasn't just a bad look, it was a betrayal. So when Indiana protected Nalissa Smith in the expansion draft, some people thought it meant she was part of their future plans. Wrong. They were just protecting her trade value, and now she's gone. Smith has been sent to Dallas, while Indiana secures the one thing they desperately needed, an enforcer. Enter Sophie Cunningham. Cunningham isn't just a sharpshooter. She's a dog. She plays with an edge. She's physical. She's the kind of player who won't back down from anyone. Most importantly, she's here to protect Caitlyn Clark. The Fever saw what happened last season, and they're making sure it doesn't happen again. With Cunningham in the lineup, the next time an opposing player tries to rough up Clark, they'll have to answer for it. The Sophie Cunningham trade isn't happening in a vacuum. It's part of a larger plan that exposes just how clueless Cheryl Swoops was when she tried to spin false rumors about the Fever being a team players don't want to join. Because right now, Indiana is the destination. Natasha Howard is ready to feast in an offense where Caitlyn Clark will be setting her up for easy buckets. She's seen the layups that Fever players missed last season, and she's here to make sure they go in. DeWanna Bonner, a WNBA legend, is also in the mix. She's not here for a rebuilding project. She's here to win now. And then there's Sydney Colson, another tough veteran presence who adds even more grit to a team that's quickly shaping up to be a real championship threat. So let's be real. Indiana Fever didn't lose Nalissa Smith. They upgraded. They built a team ready to compete at the highest level. And most importantly, they built a team where Caitlyn Clark doesn't just survive in the WNBA, she thrives. Cheryl Swoops, a WNBA legend in her own right, thought she had the inside scoop when she claimed that players weren't interested in joining the Indiana Fever. She made it sound like the organization was in disarray, that there were locker room issues, and that Caitlyn Clark wasn't the kind of teammate free agents would want to play with. But now, that narrative has completely collapsed.
I still don't think she's dominating, but she's a different player than she was in the first half of the season.
Bro, there's no way. There's no way that you know what Caitlyn Clark is averaging post All-Star break, and you still don't think that she's dominating. To say that someone in the W is averaging 24-9 and that's not dominating, bro, we're losing the plot at that point. We're losing the plot.
When free agency opened up, the top talent in the league weren't avoiding Indiana. They were running toward it. Instead of players steering clear of the Fever like Swoops suggested, they were lining up for a chance to join the most exciting young core in the WNBA. They saw what Caitlyn Clark brought to the table, a generational talent, an elite playmaker, and a cultural icon who elevates the game of everyone around her. And let's be honest, players love to win. No one wants to join a rebuilding team that will take years to compete. But that's not what Indiana Fever is anymore. The moves they made in the offseason made one thing crystal clear. This isn't about the future. This is about now. Let's look at what really happened in free agency. Natasha Howard, a multi-time WNBA champion, signed up to run the floor with Clark. Why? Because she's seen those easy looks that Indiana players wasted last season, and she's here to capitalize on them. Natasha Howard, a multi-time WNBA champion, signed up to run the floor with Clark. Why? Because she's seen those easy looks that Indiana players wasted last season, and she's here to capitalize on them.
The signing of Natasha Howard represents a massive step forward for the Indiana Fever and their quest for a championship. In Howard, the Fever gain a 3-time WNBA champion, a Defensive Player of the Year, an All-Star, and a veteran with more than 300 games played.
Sophie Cunningham, known for her toughness, made the move to Indiana. This isn't just about basketball. This is about protecting Clark and setting a new tone for the team.
Megan Gustafson now with 10 points off the bench, 4 or 5 from the floor, stolen away. And you just feel the energy coming from this Phoenix club on the road.
You do. Right there, Sophie Cunningham and Chelsea Gray. This is what you expect. This is playoff basketball. Sophie Cunningham is one of the most competitive players.
DeWanna Bonner, a veteran and one of the most respected players in the league, is on board. She's not here for a long-term project. She's here to win now. Sydney Colson, another gritty player, adds even more toughness to the roster.
Back to back. Face to the lead. It's real now. It might just be real. Back to back. Back to back. And they counted us out.
These aren't the moves of a team struggling to attract talent. These are the moves of a team ready to dominate. If anything, Swoops' comments look laughable now. Indiana isn't a place that players are avoiding. It's become one of the most desirable destinations in the WNBA. At the same time that Indiana was making power moves, South Carolina was hosting Aja Wilson's jersey retirement. Now, on paper, this should have been a massive event. Aja Wilson is one of the biggest names in women's basketball. She's a multi-time MVP, a WNBA champion, and the face of the Las Vegas Aces. Even her girl, Sydney Colson, is with Indiana Fever now. Imagine how that hurts.
I didn't look at my wrist, I got time today. Oh, Becky coming, Becky coming. Right.
More players have left Vegas than have joined, and that's saying something. That has nothing on Caitlyn Clark, though, who'll be looking to shred the new season to pieces and hit the ground running. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more updates. Stay tuned.